When you're conducting a hypothesis test, you're talking about the population. You want to know where the true parameter is for the population. What's the true mean height? What's the true mean blood pressure for all people? We're not trying to test about our sample because we know everything we need to know about our sample. We've got the data for our sample. When you do a hypothesis test, it's about population parameters. So this is the correct answer here. So here's an example from a previous question I just made a video on. Look, that's mu. Mu stands for the population mean. So when you make your null and alternative hypothesis, it's always about those population parameters. Okay, which statement is not true about the null hypothesis? Let's see. When we accept an alternative hypothesis, we have not proven our claim. That's not talking about the null hypothesis. When we accept an alternative, we have not proven our claim. I mean, that is true. In statistics, you don't prove anything. You find evidence to support something, right? We haven't officially proven that smoking causes cancer because we haven't observed the biological mechanism. Or maybe they have just recently and I haven't heard about it. But what we've done is we've provided so much evidence so that it almost certainly does, but there's still a small chance that maybe it's not smoking, maybe it's just people who smoke tend to also be people who have lung cancer, and it's not because of smoking. But the evidence is overwhelmingly supporting the idea that that smoking does cause cancer, or increases your chances. Okay, so the next one, when the null is rejected, the alternative is automatically accepted. I mean, that's true. It's either one or the other. When you make your null and alternative hypothesis, the null is that maybe that the mean is equal to 12. And the alternative has to be something else. So H1 or HA for the alternative, that the mean, the mu, is greater than 12. If you reject this one, then you're siding with this one. So I guess the second option there is fine. Only the null can be rejected. That's true. We don't reject the alternative hypothesis. The way hypothesis testing works is we say, okay, let's assume the status quo. Let's assume the null hypothesis is true. And then we make our calculations based on the null being true. We don't assume the alternative is true. We don't assume the thing we're trying to prove is true. We assume that something we found in the past is true, and it remains to be true. So when you reject something, you just reject the null, not the alternative. Okay, this is definitely false. This is not true. When we reject the null, we have proven it. No, that's the opposite, and you're not proving it, but you're finding evidence against it. If you're rejecting the null hypothesis, you found evidence against the null hypothesis.